Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure and honor to welcome here in this cozy hall
Yes.
the legend, the actress, the woman, Jacqueline Bisset. Please, your warm round of applause, guys.
Thank you.
Well, I heard about complications with your luggage, and I hope
Yes.
it's
It's
gonna turn
it'll turn out fine.
fine.
Yes.
It's gonna
Yes.
turn fine. So in a few minutes, the audience will have a you know. They can ask the questions. I think that they're gonna be like wise and thoughtful. But I wanna start with a silly one. I'm sorry. Do you have any idea why a lot of your fans think you're French and they pronounce your name like Jacqueline Bisset, comme
Well,
ça?
it's confusing to me, but my mother is partly French, so
Right.
that's where it comes from, Jacqueline.
Yeah.
But actually, I was christened Jacqueline,
Right.
English way, and Bisset is actually Scottish.
Yeah.
So it's just a confusion. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, and I think there is another thing that you worked with so many European directors. You worked with Claude Chabrol, you worked with François Truffaut,
Mhm.
and that's why I think this is some kind of confusion because actually British actresses. I have nothing against British actresses, and they're so great and talented. But I mean,
Yes.
it's more about like French actresses to do such thing. Yeah, like and my question, another question was. Like a lot of actors, they say that their collaborators make them better. Like directors, producers, maybe screenwriters, their co-workers. Can you tell like who made the biggest influence on you uh, as a professional actress? Because you work with so many greats.
Well, actually, the biggest influence on me doesn't really come from the actors. It really comes from life and the observing of life. And I am someone who watches carefully things and who listens. I like to listen, so I'm always on the lookout for people's deeper feelings about what is going on in life, and I'm observant. So I think this is what has given me the biggest key into being an actor. Of course, your partner is very important, but it depends on the kind of material. The pleasure that I get from acting is playing the subtext of the psychological
Right, right.
situation. This is where I get pleasure. Using my knowledge and trying to humanize the other actor as well as my own character, and this kind of gift that actors give each other, which is to be open to the other person's situation and to not inhibit the other actor by being controlling in on some subtle way. I mean, there's a kind of strange controlling behavior that can, in certain circumstances, because of the speed of shooting, because of the difficulties everybody's in, it can kind of control your performance before you've really reached your performance, and then it's moving on to the next thing because the schedules are tough and it's always rushing. And so for me, first of all, to have a chance to play, to have this little psychological time to play before you start to work or a scene is really, really important. And it's really always the subtext more than the text for me.
Okay, okay, I got it. And one of the things that I found out from the interviews you gave already was that one of the films that you appreciate the most is like Day for Night by François Truffaut, and like he was such a legend. But another thing that I learned is that is it true that your agent actually got a proposal, an offer from François Truffaut before Day for Night, and they refused it for some reason?
No, they didn't tell me about it.
What
They had
happened?
an inquiry to my availability, apparently a year before,
Right.
and I was never told about it. And it was really by chance that I found out about this film, because I was seen dancing in a nightclub in Paris, and somebody must have followed me back to the hotel. They must have, because I'd never stayed in this hotel before or since.
Okay.
And it was a one-night stay there, and I probably went home at 2 o'clock in the morning after dancing. And there was a telephone call in the morning, and his agent had called me. And of course, I didn't believe any of it. I thought it was some joke.
Yeah, a hoax.
First of all, a hoax. Somebody followed me. Who would be calling me in a place where nobody knows I'm staying?
Right.
And it came to me that way. It's a long story. I won't bore you with all the details. But it was... and even then, I didn't really believe it.
Okay.
Even though he said he was the agent of François Truffaut, I still thought, is there a trick somewhere in this? Because it was too much a dream for me.
Okay.
You know, I wanted to be in this universe of Truffaut's cinema.
What is it like to be there? Like, he's playing himself, of course, and then there is Jean-Pierre Léaud, his alter ego,
Yes.
and all these beautiful characters that
Yes,
always inhabit
yes.
his films. So what is it like to be a part of this
Well,
universe?
Well, it wasn't exactly what I dreamt of doing with him. I dreamt of doing a few less character piece, because this was a group piece. And he kept apologizing for saying, I'm sorry, it's not a better part. I said, no, it's wonderful. But I didn't know so well what it would be like. I mean, had I done a film? I'd done a film in France many years before, and I'd found it difficult because everyone talks very fast, and I didn't speak very good French in 1972. I was still really schoolgirl French, which is not good when you're an English schoolgirl. That's pretty bad. And I had to work hard on the language. But he said to me eventually, when I kept stopping myself and saying sorry, he said, calma, stop. It's okay. You're playing an American or English actress, I can't remember which he said, and you don't have to speak perfect French. So he liberated me.
Right.
At that point, I started to say, okay, whew, okay, maybe I can just not be self-incriminating all the time.
Right.
But when you work with French crews and actors who've been used to working in a group, it goes very fast, and they have a kind of internal language between them, and there's usually virtually no rehearsal because they know each other. And when you don't speak well, this is really difficult. And I found it very difficult on that film, less on the film I did with Belmondo, but a little bit with Belmondo. And then I did a film called La Cérémonie, which also I found very difficult because the actors were very familiar with each other, and it wasn't an easy experience, But I was so happy to be there at the same time.
Okay.
It's a combination of agony and pleasure.
Right, I can get
Yes,
it. I can
yes.
get it. And you got your overdue Golden Globe for Dancing on the Edge.
Yes.
Can you tell about this part? Because
Well,
this is such a beautiful miniseries.
Yes, it
and
was.
yeah.
Yes, I met, wait a minute, I'm having one of those moments. I can't remember the name of the director. He was so brilliant.
Polyakov.
Polyakov, yes. Stephen Polyakov, yes. And he's a very intelligent man and a very educated man, and the script was very literate. And my character was a very sad character who had lost 3 boys in the war. So she had retired. She was a recluse. And through the life that the story brings to her, she starts to come out of her isolation and finds life again. But it was not, he always wanted me to do less, which was good because he was right. It's nice when you can say that the director is right. It's so nice. Because sometimes you say the director is wrong.
Is it a rare thing? Is it a rare thing when you think that, okay, this director is right? Is it a rare thing?
Well, I believe that most actors know their character better than the director when it comes down to the tiny detail. But there are characters where the director has written the character and he maybe has founded it on a person he knows, and he has a very clear idea of what he wants. So you have to find out what it is he wants. But actors spend a lot of time thinking about who their personage is, and I had to figure out who he wanted me to be. It was actually at a time in my life when I was not terribly happy to be playing sad.
Okay.
I was maybe a little sad myself inside myself, and it took me a little bit into a kind of melancholy.
Okay.
But I was happy the series was good, and the actors were very good, and Stephen Polyakov I would love to work with him again.
And somehow you were very surprised when they announced your name.
Totally.
Okay.
Because I'd heard that, there was favorites, and I thought the grouping was such a strange group there were such different types of performances in that grouping. I said, don't have a chance. I'm not in a big commercial thing, and in fact, I came because you have to be a good sport and sit
Right.
there, but I was very taken aback. Not that I didn't think that series deserved it. I did think, but nobody had really seen it yet in America. It hadn't really
Okay.
been shown, so people were like, what is this show? Why did she win? What is this series? And they hadn't seen. And of course I I gave this very confused speech, which was laughed at by everybody, not everybody, but most people, and it was
Yeah, I
difficult.
discussed that a lot.
It went
Even
on.
Saturday Night Live. Then
Yes,
there was
it
a
was
special.
funny.
It was a
It was-
special.
Yes,
f-
it was very funny, the
yeah, it
Saturday
was
Night Live
really-
thing. I
really
did
good.
think it was very funny. No, I had a sense of humor after, but at the time I was oblivious that I was so nuts, and I was just excited, and my head just went, and I forgot to thank Stephen Polyakov, and that happens. Anyway,
Yeah, it
I've
happens.
forgiven myself now.
Yeah, it happened. Yeah, you should. You
Yes.
should. You
Yes.
should. Yeah, you should. Okay, and one of the period films that you made, you played Anna Karenina,
Mhm.
and it's such a precious part. Actually,
Wonderful
here,
part.
here in this
Yeah.
area,
Yeah.
and so high regarded. And tell what's your take on this character? What was your
it's-
take on that
Well, the book
classical
is
story?
the book gives you everything. The book gives you everything. I mean, the descriptions of Anna in certain moments, and if you read the book and you see what she was like, the only thing I felt I had to do was to lose some years in terms of life experience. So I figured, what has happened to me since I've got older, apart from the normal? I said, my eyes are not as upfront as before. I don't look at life maybe like that, maybe like that. When you're young, you look at life, and then maybe your gaze lowers a little bit, and then you are more thoughtful and la la la. And so I said, okay, I think the key for me is to get my eyes up,
Okay.
young, and
Yeah.
not knowing, not using the experience.
Innocent.
Innocent in a sense, but yet not too innocent.
Okay.
She'd been married, she had a kid, and
Right.
so on. But that was for me the thing, and it's such a beautiful part. Of course, we didn't do the whole story; it was just a section of the story. But this is like eating honey. It's just smooth and sweet and deep, and we had very good actors, and a good director was good, and we were in Hungary actually. We shot it in Hungary. I loved doing Anna Karenina. Oh my God, I loved it. I thought this is a part I could play for a very long time.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, which I don't feel about many roles.
Sure. Sure. And there is a lot of talk about that nowadays. Like an actress who started in the 60s and was very active throughout the years. Did you suffer in any way from this boys' club of directors and producers who
Not really,
dominate? No.
Not really. If I did, I didn't know it. I've always got on with difficult men. I don't know why. I'm sort of in very good comfort with difficult people.
Okay.
I feel compared to maybe, I don't know why. It's a mystery. My friends laugh at me because I'm always I'm somehow protecting some of the monsters supposedly monsters I've worked with, and I say they were great with me. They were great. We didn't have any problems. I'm not competitive with men as a kind of my attitude, and somehow I think that I give them the floor easily. It's not a, I'm not, it's not a big adjustment for me.
Okay.
It's comfortable, and as a result, I think I don't have those sort of problems of ego type things.
Okay.
And are you referring to the sort of Me Too campaign?
Well, I'm referring to that, but I think like being a gorgeous-looking actress, and you must have been objectified, and we have this case with the Deep actually
Yeah,
film.
well, that's
with this
really the
red
only
t-shirt.
time I feel that really that was a selling point from a studio, big studio, to sell a movie. That was most definitely not something I wanted.
Yeah, wet
but
t-shirt is not what you wanted.
No, but generally I don't feel I've been objectified. I don't feel objectified. I never had that feeling about myself. So when people say that to me, I say, well, you know, if you were objectifying me, that's okay, because I didn't feel it. If I felt it, I would say, of course. On the Deep, not the shooting. The shooting was great. It was a fantastic adventure.
Yeah, right.
To be, you know, 90 feet underwater for months, and with these incredible people who were the divers, who just emanated peace and love for the world of underwater. So this was a great privilege. What was the question?
Oh, the question was like, yeah, you just said that you were not objectified, that you didn't feel like that, and that you did not perceive yourself
No,
like.
myself not at all. No.
Yeah.
I really haven't felt that about myself. So people say, well, you did all those movies when you went to Hollywood, where you were the girlfriend of big stars. And I said, well, yes, I did the roles that I was lucky enough to test for and to get the parts, and I thought it was a great privilege. So I don't believe in turning around afterwards and saying, you know, I said, you know, I don't believe in that. I think I was very lucky.
Okay.
And I learned a lot, and I watched what was going on, and I watched how other actors behaved, and there's an etiquette on some level to working anywhere in the public forum with any office or place. There's a kind of an etiquette where you don't, if you want to get on, you try and find out what that is, not to make waves, because filming is a very expensive process, and time is money in this business. And once you realize that, it took me a long time to realize this, that the benefits that you're given, especially in Hollywood, are based purely on keeping your product healthy. For example, one day when you start, you don't have a chair, and then one day they give you a chair, and then one day it's got your name on it, and then one day they drive you from the house to the studio. You get this, you know, and you think, oh, wow, I'm becoming important. And in fact, nothing. It's just you are precious because they are engaged in the process of using you as a product. And they want to keep you off the floor. They don't want you to sit on the floor. They don't want you to drive badly. Bring yourself to the studio. They take you there and back because they don't want you to have an accident. And so it goes on. And you have to realize that it's not about you, really. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. They think it's about them. And then their head starts to swell.
Yeah.
If you see what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So this is more an American way of, in these big kind of films. But in Europe, you don't feel this the same way. But of course, the same principle is there, that they want you to be fit and there every day, and not tired, and not drunk, and not drugged, and not whatever might happen, you know, and not bad mouthing the project.
Right.
And or
Makes
being,
sense.
you know, all those sort of things that occasionally people go a bit off route.
Okay. Do you think it's harder for young actresses starting now, just because of all of this social media following every step, with everybody has a camera, so if everybody
I think
shoots.
That's very difficult to deal with. This is very difficult to deal with.
So do you see how the film industry does it change? Does it change, in any way? Does it influence the way you work?
I don't think anybody works that differently. I think when you're on the set and there's nobody around taking pictures of you and the public is not watching you, you're just private with your work, your compatriots, the process is the same. I don't know how else it can be different. It can't be different. It's about the moment. It's about concentration and generosity, hopefully, in a general way, and it's about emotion. So whatever, if it's television or if it's film, doesn't make any difference. It's just, if it's television, it goes faster. You know, they do more pages a day, and but I see the film business. I see the cinema. For me, it's sort of like the love business.
Right.
It's about generosity, and I think the light a cinematographer done. This is about love as well. This is about all these aspects come from a place of a rich. The successful stuff, the good stuff, comes from the soul and comes from the heart, and so that I consider it generosity as being, primary. And even if you're playing a hateful character, it's the way it's giving, and of course it can get mean, but it doesn't mean that it's not generous. It's how you interact,
Yeah, right.
That's the way I see it.
Okay.
So I forgive a lot of things that people can criticize because I know from the inside. I think a lot of people have no idea really how a film gets from an empty page to the screen. It's so difficult to make a perfect film. And I'm not even sure if one is aiming for a perfect film, but the talent required and the detail of so much is I think the director needs to have a great education. A lot of people are making films with very little education. They're just launching into all kinds of stuff, which can be fun, but I'm not sure that those films will stand up in a little bit of time. I'm not sure. Of course it's fun to do modern things, It's fun to be, but we'll see what happens. I mean, cinema seems to be changing towards television, and the only thing I worry about is what do I have to say? Is there something in there, in that script, even if it's a small part? Is there something I want to say about the world? Is there something in there that touches me?
It makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, talking about love, just before that, I watched your interview from 1982, and you said it's I think it was some kind of American talk show. I don't remember. It was like an older guy in a suit. I don't remember his name, but the thing that
82.
82.
Was I doing 82?
Yeah, and the thing that you said that there is like a need inside to make films, that you need to make films, So does it stay the same?
Maybe not quite the same. Not quite the same. No, not quite the same. Except when I read something that is really interesting, and then of course that. Oh yes, I want to do this. But that's rare. That's rare.
What kind of parts do you
I
receive
don't know
now?
what kind of parts. It's just in the words, It's somebody is something. Someone has some world truths in it, or some humor or some irony or about something truthful. It's not about the size of the role for me anymore. It's not that it ever was. I never really liked being in very, very big parts.
Why?
Because it's a kind of survival course. It's so much preparation, and you just have to rush, and you're almost not able to concentrate on who you're supposed to be. I had the experience early on in my life to do a film called The Grasshopper, which was I was playing a showgirl, a young girl who comes from Canada and wants to have a big life and wants to go to Las Vegas. And I had many, many costume changes, many hair changes, and many things. And I said, this is not movie making. This is like an athletic experience of changing. And the minute it was over, we were literally running down corridors, pulling the clothes off and putting me into something else. And I said, this is not what I want. I want reflection and time and intimacy with but it was a good film at the time.
Yeah, right. You don't want to. You don't need this kind of marathon. But is there any typecasting right now? Because you said that like before, like in the 60s or 70s, they typecasted you like as a girlfriend. You know, as a.
Well, I didn't say they typed. You said it.
I said it. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
you said it.
Okay,
You
I'm
said
sorry.
it. But I know, but I wasn't in that. In the Grasshopper, I wasn't, and there was several films where I had decent part, but they weren't necessarily seen by so many people. But the big movies like Bullet and other big movies were, I was playing a girlfriend. I didn't have much to do. But I think women have become more interesting because they're getting out their emotions, and we'll see what happens. People are talking about female projects now, and there are some which are making money, which of course is, in America, that's really the bottom line. Is
No, that's
are
the
they
crucial
making
part,
money?
right.
Commercial, yeah. I'm not terribly attracted to commercial films, and so, but a good commercial film would be probably healthy to do. It would probably be good for me to do something like that. Whereas I've been doing a lot of little films, a lot of little auteur type
But
films.
great, like with François Ozon.
Ozon?
Yeah, this one.
Double Lover.
Double Lover is such a delight. I mean, and your part is.
Strange.
Yeah, but I mean, so memorable.
Really? God,
Yeah.
I'm very surprised. Well, it was, she was such a weird character. But I wanted to work with François Ozon, and it wasn't what I dreamt to do with him, but it was a role. And he told me, it's not a big role, but well, are you interested? I said, yeah, I'm interested. You know. And then when we got there, and then we put the character in, and I didn't imagine he wanted me to look this way. He said, I sort of thinking, how Mrs. Thatcher dresses. I said, really? And then he put me in a horrible blouse, and a skirt that made me look rounder than I wished to be,
Okay.
and so on. And I said, okay, I can see where we're going now. I have to accept and embrace and adjust. And I really enjoyed it. He's fun to work with.
Why did you stop producing films after reaching famous? Because this was like the only experience
The
that
only
you
one,
had
yeah.
producing films.
Yeah.
Can you tell about that? What happened? Because it was the final film by
Cukor,
George
yeah.
Cukor, and I think was it a traumatic experience for you? Was it too much?
It was actually, it was. But I don't really want to go into it. It's old story. But it wasn't a good experience on some levels, and yet the work was good. That was I'd been in Hollywood. How long had I been there? 67 till 1980. So I'd been there 13, 14 years. And I had been always an actor. So to experience the other side of the coin, the man's world setup at MGM in that instance, where the relationship between production and actors is a rather dishonest one. There's a lot of praise publicly for actors, but there's a lot of dérisoire, derision
right.
on a subtext level. So you are, unless you're blind, you can feel it. You can feel this. So there are very few girls or women were getting involved in production at that time. I think Barbra Streisand was and had done prior, but virtually nobody. So there was an excitement that me getting involved in that, and I could feel the excitement, and I felt it was friendly, but I found that it wasn't really very friendly, and during the shooting, and I didn't understand, because my heart was just open, it was full of joy and embracing what I thought we were all doing together, and I found that there was a kind of derision, because when an actor speaks, there's a kind of fake respect shown often, not by everybody, of course, but it takes time to build up a serious reputation.
Right.
So I'm being much too honest. I know that I shouldn't probably not say these things, but that is sort of how I feel. But since then, the old school studio system is still there, but the people are much younger, and I'm not sure how they are. They don't know so much about the cinema in general. They're much more, they're less well educated in the cinema, and I think they make quick decisions, and that's the way the world is now in that kind of milieu. But I think women have made some steps. I think they have, and I think they're fighting hard. I'm not sure that the fighting takes women to where they want to be. I'm not completely convinced that endless complaining and talking takes you into a man's heart. So it's a very subtle thing. So you have to I think humor tends to get effect probably more better than haranguing and whining. But there's a lot of whining going on now because of the situation which has come from the Me Too situation. And I don't know where men and women are going to go now. I'm not quite sure.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows, no. I just hope it's going to be friendly and productive.
Okay, now I think now we have.
I need to put powder my nose.
Sure.
Perspiring.
Yeah, right.
I try and put some shiny.
And now we have time for the questions from the audience. And before, like, you raise. No. Don't worry about that.
Powder puff.
Don't worry about that. So you just raise your hand. The girl, the assistant with the mic comes to you. Yeah, and just before the audience starts with the questions, I have the last silly one, because the film Wild Orchid was a cult film here.
Really?
On the really. Yeah, I don't think you think much of it. Maybe I don't know what you think about it, but
well, I like my little part.
Yeah, right. But what was this? What kind of experience it was with playing alongside Mickey Rourke, and before that you turned down 9.5 weeks before that.
Yes, which Salman was.
Yeah, producing. He was producing that.
We actually talked about it for a year, and I was very nervous about the nudity. I was very shy, and I said, well, could she be erotic but dressed? Could she be sexily dressed? And he said, I don't know if we could do that. And I thought we were thinking pretty much on the same line. And then one day, I can't remember, we were talking about music. And what kind of music? And I thought, my God, we're not on the same path at all. And I thought, no, it's not going to work. Suddenly it sort of went, and Zalman was a friend of mine, and Pat, his wife, and they were good writers, and of course everybody was in their own interpretation of that story, very personal. People really personalized it. Fascinating, actually, how people interpreted the script, and I realized I said, I can't, no, it won't work. I won't be able to do it. I'll freeze up, and I don't believe we're not close enough on the story.
Okay.
And I thought she did a brilliant job. Kim was wonderful. So I say bravo, Kim.
And what about Wild Orchid? What has changed for you?
They asked me to do that. That was Salman too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the director.
And I was going through one of my more I don't know what I was going through in my life, but I remember thinking, I can't deal with this. I can't deal with this. I can't deal with all this sex and I don't know, in Brazil and the whole thing. It's all too much, and I know Zalman, no, I can't do it. And then I don't know, time passed, and he cast another actress, and then it didn't work out with her. And he came back and he said, Jacqueline, please come with us, be with us in Brazil. And I was calmer, and I said, okay, I'll come. And I said, I changed my mind and thought it'll be interesting to go to Brazil.
Right.
And when I was in Brazil, I spent a tremendous amount of time looking for art.
Okay.
And I found all kinds of nice pictures, and I got completely involved in this obsessive art thing, and sort of concentrated on that instead of on the film. And they were busy doing their scenes, so I didn't have so many scenes, There was a lot of waiting around, and I ended up having a very good time.
Yeah, and Rio is one of the best cities in the world, I think.
We were in Rio, but we were also in north of there.
I don't know
they could
geography
do.
at all.
Yeah,
I
the
don't know
town,
at
big
all.
town. What was it called? We were north of there anyway. That's where the art was.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Right. Okay. Now we have time for the questions from the audience. Please raise your hand. Who has a question? Okay. Anybody, guys? Okay. Yeah. The girl right there in the. Yeah.
First of all, it's such a big pleasure to have you here, Jacqueline.
Thank you.
And my question is it your first time in Odessa?
What?
Is it your first time in Odessa?
Yes.
Oh my
Yes,
God,
so
oh my God.
welcome.
We went this morning around a little tiny bit, and it's beautiful here.
So
Wow.
it's very nice that you.
beautiful. The trees and the pavements, this shady pavements with the sunshine, and this kind of intimacy it has. It's kind of got a coziness and a kind of sympathique quality.
No, that's a big pleasure to hear
Yeah,
it.
really,
that
I
you,
feel this. Yeah.
that you got this first impression.
I did.
Such a nice one.
This is
So
it,
welcome
yeah.
you to
We went to
Odessa.
the steps today. We went to the
Ah,
steps,
yeah.
the famous
Potemkin.
steps,
Yeah. Potemkin stairs.
and I hear those carry quite a lot of history.
It
That's
is.
true.
Well, actually, now I'm gonna, ask you all the common questions that
Yes.
they're asked from every actor or director who comes to
Mm.
Odessa. Did you like Odessa? You responded that. Then, do you like Ukrainian women? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Did you try borscht? All this.
Too early.
Too early. Too early.
I
too
haven't
early.
had a single meal here yet.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay. Well, do we have another question? I mean, not about Odessa, guys? Okay. Oh, yeah, good. Because I want to give you, an opportunity to talk to the legend.
Yeah, first of all, welcome to Ukraine.
Thank you.
We hope you will spend a very good time here.
Yes.
And
sure I will.
I have one question. We know that you're a godmother of Angelina Jolie.
Mhm.
How often do you meet each other? Maybe you have some favorite places where you spend time all together.
Oh, this is
So-
a personal question if you're
it's
comfortable with it.
okay.
But I mean, you did a good job as a godmother because she's doing good,
No,
you.
I had nothing to do. Her mother was a great mother. Her mother was a great mother. No, I don't see her very often, but I mean, I saw her a few weeks ago. I went to the set of her Maleficent shoot
Yeah.
down in England, and she was amazing. She was doing some, I don't know if you know the character, this incredible character with his
Horns,
and
yeah.
his cheekbones and this thing, and she was on the thing where the machine lifts her up, and then she has to kind of dive. And I was amazed by her, how she changed into this, almost into a sort of creature, and I think she was having a good time there. The kids are all there, and she's an amazing woman. She is an amazing woman. I don't see her often though. We talk, we get together and we talk. We don't go to public places, but I go to her house or she comes to me occasionally, and we just go over simple things. Talk.
Yeah, right. Another question? Yes, please. Before they pass the mic, I have a question about one of your nearest projects. I just read that the news that you joined the Til Schweiger film.
Yes.
Can you
it's
tell about that?
finished.
You
It's finished.
finished
Just
that.
finished it.
You finished it.
Yes.
Can you tell about that? Because I think he's remaking his own film, his own
Yes, he
German
is,
film.
yes.
What is it
So
about?
this, I don't know what the original film was called, but it was in German. This is in English. Nick Nolte is playing the part of the leading part.
Oh, so this is a reunion with Nick Nolte.
Well, in a sense, I'm in the film with him. I don't have a big part with him. We don't have a lot of connection in the film. But it was really nice to see Nick. He plays an old man who was very vigorous, who is getting dementia.
Okay.
And it's the same story. It's just, in fact, his daughter, his real daughter, is playing in the film. But in the story, she is his granddaughter.
Okay.
So he said he was getting the experience of having a granddaughter with his own daughter, and he was enjoying that.
Okay.
She was remarkable. It's the first film.
Okay.
Remarkable. And what can I tell you about it? It was I'm playing I'm not good at family members, who's what to who, but I play a woman who's a little bit, not dingbat, but a little nuts. dressed kind of a little bit extravagantly and with a sense of humor.
Okay. Do you enjoy playing, like evil characters, or because some of the actors say, like, you get the best
Fun.
Yeah, the best fun playing like
Yeah.
evil, or
Yes.
playing eccentric, or
Yes. Yes, well, I think that's true, but I would love. I did very few evil characters, but I did one in a series called Nip Tuck.
yeah.
I don't know if that played here. Did it
Was-
play here?
It was. I think it was piracy, like
Oh, piracy. Oh, this was
yeah, I'm sorry.
a horrible woman, but she was also interesting and entertaining. She was entertaining. I couldn't believe what I was doing. My character was doing.
Okay, and where does it come from? Does it come from personal experience,
No,
or
in this
something,
case-
or
in
wishful
this
thinking?
case-
I would do that if I
No,
could.
I just, you use your imagination and you try and entertain the audience. You don't. Sometimes you have some irony and you have to play it straight. You play it straight, but it doesn't mean that you can't possibly see what the audience might be get. You don't want to be very boring. You try and make it
Okay.
little. I don't know what to say. It's definitely fun to be, and I don't see myself as this kind of a character at all, but who knows? When you can play it well, maybe you can do it too. I don't know.
Okay. Well, another question, please. Yeah, right. There is a guy in the last row. Yeah, he raised his hand before.
Where's the person? Who's?
Right here.
Hi.
Hi, I have a question probably on behalf of Ukrainian filmmakers. What would, would you be interested, and how hard it would be for Ukrainian filmmakers to convince you to collaborate together? And if so, what would you be looking for from that collaboration?
Oh, I think it's a kind of
It's-
material, right?
It's always material, yes. Obviously, language might be a bit of a problem, but if it was way of working in English, or I don't know. I mean, I'm very open at this point in my life. I love the adventures of doing films with young filmmakers and different nationalities. I just did a film with an Iranian director called Amir Naderi,
Okay.
and I wondered how that would be, but he wanted to do it in English, and no problem. He was great. I haven't seen it yet, but it's an international, it's the world medium, So if you can be part of something that is beautiful and interesting, I'm open.
Здравствуйте, спасибо большое за встречу. Я хотела бы узнать, как вам было работать вместе с Одри Хепберн, больше как с человеком, а не как с актрисой.
Like,
Спасибо
this is a
большое.
question. How was it like for you to work with Audrey Hepburn?
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I didn't really work with her. I was in her movie. I watched her. I was fascinated, but with her, and what fascinated me was how little she ate on the set, where the food was fantastic. And we were shooting in France, and the caterer was just amazing. And she would come. I would eat everything. I didn't know the results of that, what that would be. She would take a little piece of cheese and a little tomato or something, and she'd go into her trailer. And always on that film, she was changing hairstyles. There were like 5 major hairstyles in that film, which situated where she was in the age of her character. So, so she was always with the makeup people. And I think the time that she spent doing makeup and hair probably eliminated her lunchtime. But when I saw her in the weekend, she invited me to her house where she was staying for a meal, and she was doing the cooking. And then I said, this is a woman who likes to eat. She made a very good pasta with cream and, very much, very fattening, nice pasta. And I said, well, okay, so she's not only this perfectly disciplined person, but it impressed me a lot because she had to be, you know, very, very, for the film, very perfect, and all the costume changes, and no, she was very much a woman as well.
Okay, I was very surprised that you were auditioning for the part in the neck and how to get it with Charlotte Rampling and Jane Birkin. I think like all the British actresses. So, what kind of coincidence it was, you know?
Well, there were a lot more than three. We were many more than three.
Okay.
But we were the three who sort of came out of that
Okay.
list. There was about, I don't remember, maybe 10 or 12 girls in that, all dressed the same, with a white jumper and a grey skirt, if I remember right. And we had nothing to say, but we had to line up outside the Albert Hall, and I said, this film, what the hell is this film? Must be the rubbish. It must be a rubbish film. This made no sense. And I watched the shooting, and I'd never been really on a set before. And I said, oh, this is not a B movie, this is a D movie. And when I saw it, I said, oh, wow, my God, is this possible? This is a good film. This was an interesting film, an innovative film. And I said, oh, I think I like this business. It's not, it's ephemeral and
It's not about the
surprising.
appearance.
Yes, and I realized it's all those little beats, seconds of invention, and Richard Lester, who was the director, was an excellent director. But I didn't meet Charlotte on that film, and Jane, but later I met them, and I actually used to know Charlotte's sister better than I knew Charlotte. My dream actually is I'd love to do a movie with Charlotte, a good script with Charlotte.
Yeah,
would
she's
be-
also great. She's also
great.
great.
She's great. She's a great person. She's a very interesting woman, and yeah, I think she's great.
Did it happen to you a lot when you thought you were making some kind of a D movie? Okay, not
That's
D
the
movie.
only one. I
The
thought
only
that's
one.
The only one.
And then it turned out
yes,
really
was
really
winning
good.
awards and stuff. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So this is like the only time when you thought,
I thought-
okay, this is something bad.
Well, not bad. I just said something like rubbish. You know, what is this? Why are we all wearing the same clothes in a line outside the Albert Hall in midwinter? You know, it was absurd. It was absurdist.
Okay.
Yeah.
I read that it was hard for you auditioning. Auditioning was hard for you because you were shy or something. How did you overcome it and
You know, gradually.
gradually?
Yeah, I'm still sometimes shy. You know, I try
Okay.
not to be.
Okay.
I know it makes if you're shy, you make other people uncomfortable. So I really try to not be.
How do you let yourself go? What's
No, you have to. I think it's like, you know, when you go to a party and you feel shy, people get this vibrate. They think you're being standoffish, or you know, you're not friendly, but actually you're shy. Most people, I think, are a little bit shy in those circumstances, and so one. My way of dealing with that is, I think it's crucial to have comfortable shoes,
okay?
and to plant your feet very firmly on the ground, and to let your weight fall into your feet and get your balance, you know, and from there you come from a place where you are
No, sorry, you cannot do that because as I said about the white. Sorry.
It's helped me a lot, is that kind of just placing yourself down so you're really rooted to the earth, and then you just have to forget about yourself. And so much of shyness is self-absorption, that not only I think one is shy, but one is also self-conscious, and this is all just so self-involved. It's awful. You have to get over it. Somehow one has to get over it, but most people suffer from it a bit, and I'm getting better at it.
That's cool.
I'm getting better. My father used to torture me by making me, he said, this was really good advice for me. He said, why do you think people are looking at you? I said, well, I was like 16, 17, and I was starting to develop, and and guys were looking at me. I could see it. And he said, why do you think they're looking at you? And I said, well, they are looking at me. He said, no, they're not looking at you. Stop thinking about yourself. I said, well, I'm feeling really, this is happening. He said, no, it isn't happening. People are only thinking about themselves, saying, is she looking at me? They're thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about you. So one day he told me to meet him in a very busy coffee shop in the middle of the town where I was brought up. And he came late on purpose. And I was standing in this coffee shop, fidgeting, feeling like I wanted to fall through the ground, because people were sometimes looking at me, because of course I was fidgeting, looking awkward. And he arrived and he said, how's everything? I said, Daddy, why did you not come? How did you leave me here? He said, I don't see anybody looking at you.
Okay.
Nobody's looking at you. And I said, well, they were looking at me. They were. He said, well, they're not interested. So he said, lesson number 1, take an interest in other people. And he said, if you take an interest in other people, you will always have friends. And this was really, for me, very important life lesson.
That was very wise.
Mm?
That's very wise. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we still argued about this. Were they looking at me or were they not looking at me? We went on this argument about it.
I think they definitely were looking at you.
No, yeah, well, whatever. But I think this place that when we're 16 or 17, we all go through this self-concern and and it's funny because I then later chose to become an actor, where of course people look at you. So this ironic in a way.
Why do you think people think that you were a model, a professional model? Because this is some kind of a misconception about you. Jacqueline Bisset was modeling, and then she like.
No, I did. No, I was trying to earn money when I left school. I had this desire to try and go to acting school, but I couldn't ask my parents anymore for money, and I wanted to earn some money. So I worked in a restaurant for a while, and in an Arabic restaurant and a Chinese restaurant, and then somebody suggested, at school, my Latin teacher said to me, we were very few people doing Latin, but we were like 5 people in the class, and I was always asking questions. He said, you are such a chatterbox, you might make a good actress. And I thought, really? I normally was quiet, but with him, he was so interesting, I used to ask. And then about a year later, after I left school, I met Roman Polanski. And Roman, I sat there very quiet, and it was a dinner in London, and there was about 5 people there, and he said to me, you are such an introvert, you might make a good actress.
Okay.
I said, what the hell is this? But the thought, the grain of something just settled in me, and I thought, me an actor. I love psychology, I love words, I love Shakespeare, I love this, I love cinema. Could I be an actor? How embarrassing to want to be an actor. I was embarrassed, my own thoughts about being an actor. And I was shy. And I knew nobody in this business, and the meeting with Polanski was just, just happened to be at this dinner, and I started thinking, if I keep really quiet about it, maybe I can go to acting school, earn some money. And how can I earn some money? Somebody said you should try modeling, and I was actually not the right shape for modeling. I was not fat, but I was round.
Okay.
Kind of round and fleshy, and the girls were like this.
Yeah, I can imagine
like
that. Yeah, right.
And my hair was wavy, curly, but this was not fashionable at all either.
Oh my
God! And I had no idea how to do my hair. I had no idea how to do my hair. But with those realities, I said, I'm going to try. And I was told you have to go to photographer studios, and they take pictures of you, and then you try. And I did that. I went around, and people liked me because I was kind of a little different. And they tried, they said, "We'll take pictures of you," and I gathered some pictures together, and then I got the odd job, but I was never the right size. So I have memories of being in somewhere in Italy by the sea, and I was with this group of models, and they said, "Jacqueline, go behind so and so. Go behind." And why? I said, "You just go behind and peek out." And I realized I was looking a little rounder than everybody else, and they said, "No, you can't eat lunch. No, you get an apple, and you models, you can have 5-course lunch, and I have an apple." And this was horrible. This was horrible, but.
So heartbreaking.
But so I suffered through that. I didn't know how to do my hair. I bought a piece of. I won some money on something called a premium bond, £25, which to me was a lot. And I bought a hairpiece, a little hairpiece,
Really?
with a band, and I stuck it on my head and tried to use it as much as possible. And I got through about. Maybe like 4 months or something. I got a few little tiny jobs, but the good thing was that I got to see photographers, really brilliant photographers, and I learned a lot about light. That's what I got out of that. And I was never wanting to be a real model. I wanted to go to acting school, but it served me well. And you take what you can from such an experience. I found it humiliating, quite honestly, to be told I was round instead of angular, and I survived it, and I got some really nice photographs, and gradually I started to go for auditions and stuff. I'm giving you too many details. I think you're...
No, it's so fascinating.
Okay,
I think everybody's mesmerized by this story.
Really?
And that's how we got the great actress Jacqueline Bisset. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you very much.
You. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I hope you have a great time here. No, it's okay. I hope you have a great time here.